Okay, so today we are back to talk about the Summer I Turned Pretty season 3. It's been a little bit since I've talked about it. In the meantime, while I'm still making some of the more longer format video essays about the season and the show, I wanted to kind of just do a little review, debrief on the season. I asked for questions from people, so I'm going to be going through people's questions and comments and kind of just a general relaxed discussion of season 3 now that we've had some time to digest it. So I'm back in the summer-esque get-up. This is giving very summer to me. This kind of reminded me of Jeremiah's puka shell necklace. Anybody? So let's get into the questions that I got asked. Okay, after the high of the Bonrad finale, I realized I was really disappointed in Stephen and Taylor's romantic storyline and Jer's overarching storyline in different ways. I think Stephen and Taylor's storyline was badly written and inclusion of Denise was unnecessary. I might agree. I would rather have seen Stephen set strong boundaries with Taylor and then build trust as friends or in a different scenario before getting back together. I also think we all could have rooted for Denise and Jer all season and maybe see him be tempted to cheat and not do it again. Even have Denise say she would never go there too, even if they're having feelings. That kind of would have been buzzy. And I agree, because when people were saying that Denise and Jer were in-game, I was like, where? Like, where's the evidence of this? This is out of nowhere. They've never talked to each other. Or, like, they've had one scene together where she's calling him a Nepo baby. Like, it's not giving in-game. But it could have been. And I remember saying throughout the series that I was like, I wonder if they're gonna make it that Jeremiah's falling in love with someone in the meantime, like, while still with Belly. And I think that would have been interesting and buzzy. That probably would have been more buzzy. That probably would have felt a little less rushed. But I don't know if they could have done this for this type of a thing when so many people are Team Belly and Jer. And there's the source material. I don't know. I would have liked it, obviously, as a Bonrad, but, like, who knows? As for Jer, he had the growth and storyline I wanted, but they squashed it into the last 2 episodes. And I wish they'd done more throughout the season. I think they tried too hard to get the audience against him, and the story didn't need that. Jer didn't have to be the most irresponsible, immature man-child for Belly not to love him. She just loves Conrad and not him. That's the story. So overall, I felt like they trashed those characters in certain ways this season, and I'm bummed about it. I hope the movie brings back their good qualities. I'm still not over Steven treating Conrad so terribly, and that never really being resolved. Me too. That, I will 100% agree with you. What was that? What was that? And it better be resolved in the movie, but I feel like they're going to do a time jump, so then it's like everything's been taken care of in the meantime. And it's like, okay, why do we have to suffer through many episodes of that then? And it made no sense, and it was out of nowhere, and that's not in the book. And it was really intense, too. It wasn't like one scene. It was like a lot. He got a lot of lashings. He was really, and like, I guess it sort of makes sense. It did feel kind of like, hello? Where is this coming from? I agree, like, generally. I disagree a little bit about Jer. I do think he had growth throughout the season that you were seeing, and I also think he actually was more likable to me and showed more promising qualities to me in the show than in the book. Like, I thought it was a pretty favorable adaptation. And that might be because the book is so much from Belly's perspective and she's pretty much always just complaining about Jeremiah. But I thought, they did show his immaturity and, him being a man-child and things like that, but they also showed him taking a lot of responsibility. They showed him with his job. They showed him, trying to prove himself to his dad. They showed him kind of getting over some insecurities. They showed him, cooking. Apparently he cleans. Like, there was a lot that I actually felt was pretty favorable to Jer. I do agree that, like, it does end up being kind of rushed in the last few episodes, but I kind of felt like it was a great portrayal of Jer, and a kind one, and a loving one. And I think they still showed some merit to the relationship with Belly. Like, they were showing that it doesn't work. It's not going to work long term. It's not what either of them need or want. But there's love there, and there's affection there, and there's treatment that is good between the two of them as well. So I don't really, I kind of disagree with that. Stephen and Taylor, I would kind of agree. I think it was a little start and stop. And that made it kind of feel a little, like, jarring and all over the place because it was like, it didn't have any smooth momentum or build-up. It was kind of like on and off again, and I get that's what they were going for. But it kind of was like, okay, by the time they get together, do I even really care? And, like, yes, I do, but also, like, it feels like that was 10 million years ago when we were having these problems. Like, what they established and set up with Taylor crying at his bedside was really, really good, and then they kind of dropped that for a while. And yeah, in favor of Denise and that whole thing. And obviously Denise ended up being a friend and a business partner to Steven, so it's not an entire loss. But yeah, I don't know that they needed that. I don't, yeah, I agree. I don't know that they needed Denise. And I would have been, I personally would have been interested to see if they had kind of sowed the seeds of Denise and Jeremiah earlier on and had that kind of going on to kind of also alleviate, any of the guilt or damage that comes when Billy and Conrad inevitably are going to end up together. But then again, they gave him, someone pretty close after. So yeah, I kind of agree with like all those things. I think there's some issues with the pacing in the season for sure. And the more time that passes, the more I look at that. Like there's some, it just is really kind of like stop and go. And it kind of, like, it's really not kind of a continuous and smooth momentum or pace throughout. And that is somewhat difficult and also somewhat confusing to me because they were given more episodes. So I thought, oh, surely this will be more like deliberately paced and like really, and I'm not saying that it wasn't deliberately paced, but for me personally, it just felt a little like out of place at times. It felt a little like, okay, we're crashing. Okay, now we're so back. We're so over. It's so done. We're back. Like, it kind of was an up and down roller coaster in that way. And not in like the narrative sense of like a roller coaster of emotions. Like, it was kind of the pacing felt a little off at times. What is your favorite episode of the show? Also, favorite character outside of Belly, Jeremiah, and Conrad. Favorite episode. So I'll do of season. Well, I know season two. Well, okay, I'll do season by season because season one of my favorite episodes, the 4th of July episode, actually changed everything for me. To me, that's when the show, I was like, oh, this is when it's really picking up. And when I started showing it to people, I was literally like biting my nails, like gnawing to get to that episode because I was like, this is where you'll get hooked. And I could see it. And it happened. Like, I had friends that I introduced the show to and I was like, just wait till the 4th of July episode. And then I could literally see their brain chemistry change. And they were like, actually, wait, why is this kind of a serve? And that's how I felt about that. I remember the episode where Belly and Conrad had the confrontation on the beach. I forget what number that is in season 2. That one was definitely my favorite from that season. There were so many good Billy Conrad moments in that one. Their talk in Party City. And then this season, that's very interesting. I remember really, really unexpectedly loving the episode where Conrad injures himself. And they're kind of trying to deny their feelings at that point. She's kind of trying to avoid him. Like, I did not expect to love that episode. I did not expect for that to be one of my favorites, but that was by far one of my favorites. And actually, oddly enough, some of the episodes where you'd think that would be my favorite, like, the bachelorette party and beach confession, that felt lackluster to me, which I said in the video. But there was something missing from that, and it left me feeling a little, like, empty and despondent. So that was a really good surprise. And of course, I feel like Conrad's episode, directed by Jenny Han herself, like, that was an all-time high. My favorite characters other than the big 3, I mean, I do like Laurel a lot. I liked Taylor a lot more this season. They really did a good job of kind of turning the tide on her and making me understand her more. Not that I disliked her before, but I feel like I felt so much more empathy toward her and I really understood her in a different way this season. And it made everything with her more enjoyable. Yeah, I don't know that there's really characters that I dislike, per se, in this. Other than, like, I mean, Adam, but, like, I love to hate him. So, that's a period, too. I think Laurel's an interesting character, for sure. Susanna is an interesting character as well. I don't know that I would say she's one of my favorites. But, yeah, maybe Laurel, like, off the top of my head, is a character that I find pretty compelling, and the performances is really good. But also Taylor really, I grew such a soft spot for Taylor in this season. What were some of your favorite music moments this season? Moments where the scene was perfectly captured by the song playing in the back or the music progressed in the storyline some way. Now, I have to speak my truth. As much as I love Taylor Swift, like, I do have to say, it got to a point. It got to a point where I was like, oh, we're doing 3 in 1 episode. Like, what are we? It kind of felt a little excessive at some point, and it didn't always feel like, did we need this? Is this the song that is good for this moment? Like, is that what we're doing? But that's, that's up to Jenny Han. That's their prerogative. They can use whatever things they want. You know what I mean? Like, it's really has no effect on me. I remember, gagging at Mystery of Love. That was actually the gag of the century. I never thought I'd hear Mystery of Love in The Summer I Turned Pretty, and yet it was so perfect. It was everything I didn't know I needed. It was so good. And I think that reaction is pretty self-explanatory. Also, Bizarre Love Triangle doesn't make a lot of sense. Did it really work in the scene? Not necessarily, but that's one of my favorite songs, one of my favorite genres, one of my favorite artists. So that was truly a gobsmack gag to me. And again, I couldn't stop dancing, couldn't stop singing. That was everything. And again, there were good Taylor moments as well. I'd have to like go through a list of all the musical moments to really pinpoint, but those are the two that stand out in my mind as being really, really good. Ooh, and the False God reprise really surprised me. I hope they do like a This Love reprise, because I thought maybe at the end they'd do a reprise of one of the earlier Belly Conrad songs. But I was really happy they did False God reprise. That was crazy. That was crazy. And I hope they do it again. I hope they do another reprise, another Taylor reprise in the movie. Hello? What do you think about how they depicted Steven and Conrad's relationship? I don't know for sure, but I think they stay friends in the books. I understand what they were going for and that Steven was mostly hurt for himself about Conrad never coming around. But I'll be honest, I don't love that they had the attitude carried through for the whole season. Yes. And Vulture was uncalled for. Yes. That was crazy. That was really crazy. I really think that felt so like weird and out of character for him to go as hard as he did. Maybe one or two confrontations. Him being mad is not what I'm upset about, or anybody being mad or upset or confronting Conrad doesn't bother me, but it's the level to which he did it. It's the amount of times he did it. It's how long he held that. It's the things he said. He basically was like, you're a fucking piece of shit. And I was like, whoa! Whoa! Because that did not happen in the book, and it actually doesn't make any fucking sense for him to say that or think that of him. And already when Belly was kind of driving me crazy with her, I mean, everybody is so uncharitable to Conrad in the show. And we really didn't need another character piling on. Because already Belly and Jeremiah really like villainize Conrad in a way that sometimes he deserves, sometimes is warranted, but a lot of times really is not, and they kind of put words in his mouth and put ideas like associated with him where it's like, well, he just likes, messing with people's hearts. He loves playing the game, giving and taking away, and it's like, that's literally not correct. That's not a correct interpretation of who he is as a person, and you as the people closest to him should know that. So to have yet another person just like outrageously mischaracterize him was really crazy to me. I was like, how is Taylor, the number one Conrad hater, actually the most like logical one here? How did that make any sense? It really came out of nowhere. It was not in the book. It was uncalled for. It was unwarranted. I get he was mad about himself too, but like they really hammered that in, and it felt kind of like they were using Steven as like a proxy for the audience that hates Conrad. They were like, well, if we put it in the script that, the people who hate Conrad and are gonna hate what he did, if we have people really give him shit and say that he's a terrible person, and we have Steven really, take him to task, then that'll kind of mitigate the damage. And it's like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. It really felt like they were making Steven just say the things that people that hate Conrad say. So they were like, it's in the show. So now we've addressed it, or something like that. It was bizarre. Steven, out of everyone, should understand exactly why Conrad stayed away and should have been the least surprised at how things went down. Yes, because he was literally a Belly Conrad in season 2, too. Where was that thread? Like, that is so weird to me that he didn't pick up on any of this. Or, actually, what was even crazier was when he said, we all know you've been pining after her and in love with her. Why hasn't anybody said anything to anybody or done anything about it then? Like, it makes no sense to me, and it actually kind of really pisses me off, if I really think about it. Now that you're putting it all out, I'm like, actually, that pissed me off. And it still does. And Conrad deserves to get taken to task, but he deserves a little better than that. Like, this is crazy. We're really, like, dogpiling on this man when he already literally is, like, on the verge of killing himself at any given moment because he thinks he's the worst person on Earth just on his own. He doesn't need this. You know what I mean? He really doesn't. And we don't either. He's harder on himself than anybody else could be. I get that it's been 4 years and we're supposed to think he just doesn't consider it to have been big enough to still matter, but to me that didn't make sense given that Steven grew up with the three of them and has information most don't. No, I totally agree with everything in this, actually. You're actually so right. And that was actually kind of egregious. That was kind of egregious. Okay, I don't understand the Belly hate. I get that she's made mistakes before, but she's young and learning life. I hate the people who are like team anti-Belly. Like she wasn't so lost from herself when she was with Jer. I think the reason she was so hated on especially season 3 was because of how much Jer influenced her when they were together. He completely changed her to the point where she didn't know herself anymore and had to fully heal and find herself. I will forever support my girl Bells. Just like Conrad said, whatever promises you made back then, nobody will hold them to you now, to Belly. And she didn't break the family, the fight sort of amplified. It's very annoying to see people say Belly is the problem when many other characters made mistakes too, not just her. I want your take on this. Yeah, I've said this many times before. Everybody's messy. Like, everybody's flawed, nobody's evil in this story. And I don't think that anybody is, like, the villain per se. I don't think Belly is the villain. She's in a really weird and hard spot. And yes, you can argue that, like, she put herself there largely, but, like, did she? I don't know. Both these brothers want her too, and they kind of were, you know, Susanna wanted them to be together. Like, this is actually such a complicated and kind of fucked up situation. It's not that these people are bad, it's that they're in such a weird, bad situation. And yeah, I think people think of her as like callous or manipulative or something like that. I think she's been very confused. And yes, I do think in that relationship with Jer, she got even more confused and lost herself. And they've all gone through this trauma together of losing Susanna, of growing up together. Like, there's so much going on between Conrad and Jeremiah that has absolutely nothing to do with Belly, but is exacerbated by the situation with Belly, or even, I would say, the boys in some way, well, more so Jeremiah than Conrad, put it on her as like a way to resolve their issues or cope with their issues, or like, this is the way that I can win. Like, the whole thing is so bizarre, and there's actually a lot of things that other people have done that she has nothing to do with, that it's like, well, that's problematic. And in some way, she's been put in that situation. Again, I think they're all victims and villains to and for each other. But yeah, the Belly hate, like, I think a lot of it, and a lot of people are like, just because I don't like a girl or a woman doesn't mean it's misogyny. That's not what I'm saying. The, like, vitriol toward her, the, like, she's a fucking whore, she's a slut, fucking both brothers, and breaking their hearts and ruining their lives. That kind of rhetoric, I think, is very, reductive. It lacks nuance, it lacks complexity, it lacks depth, it lacks empathy. Almost entirely. And a lot of it, yeah, that bitch, that whore, that slut, I don't know, it seems a little crazy to me. I feel like there are a lot of love triangles where men are kind of the center of two women, and they're not made to be the villain. It's like, oh, there's these couples, you know, like, I don't know why there has to be a villain either. I don't know why people are so kind of like stuck on that. I don't know why they need that. I don't know why. I think, honestly, I mean, I would have to say to a lot of people, whether or not they realize it, like, it's jealousy. It's literally because they're like, I think Conrad or Jeremiah is hot and Belly gets both of them, and if it were me, I would treat them better. Like, that's literally what it is. And I know that sounds insane, but I'm telling you, that is literally what it is for so many people, whether or not they realize it. And the way they talk, you can clock it in people. You can hear it. It's like, interesting. You know, Conrad deserves better, Jeremiah deserves better. What, you? This fictional person deserves better when they want Belly? What, you would treat them like, what are we saying? Like, it's so weird. It really is. Like, I think it's jealousy. I do. I think it's jealousy and misogyny in a lot of instances. Not everything is. And I have criticized Belly. Like, there's a lot to criticize her for. She's not perfect. She's made a lot of mistakes. She's done a lot of wrong. And I can call her out for that. Like, I'm not the type of person who's just gonna, like, love a woman just because she's a woman. But I'm also not the type of person who's gonna hate a woman irrationally and disproportionately because she's a woman. Yikes! If the tables were turned, I just don't know that it would be the same. Like, if this was a man, I think people would be saying, well, these sisters had problems before, or whatever, like, that have nothing to do with the man. It's not his fault that they have problems. You know what I mean? Like, I can literally already see people just, like, jumping to defend Amanda in this situation, where they jump down her throat for everything she does and says in these situations. And yeah, it's giving a little bit of just outright misogyny or internalized misogyny, whether or not you like to realize that. And that's the thing. Again, you can dislike a person, you can criticize a person, it might not have anything to do with their gender, but I actually think, and I know this from experience, a lot of times that is really, like, latent. It's not something that you're able to, like, identify as what it is, but that is what it is. And for a lot of these people, I'm not saying everybody, okay, don't come for me, but for a lot of these people, it is internalized misogyny, their like level of hatred, the way they go after her, their unfair kind of judgments toward her, the standards that they set for her, the unrealistic standards. That is all because she's a woman, and they don't even realize it. And that's how prevalent it is. And I'm telling you, like, I have learned this lesson for myself many times over, where I'm like, huh, interesting. Okay, so that irrational and absolutely crazy hatred and vitriol was misogyny after all. Okay, cool. And I just don't think people realize how prevalent that is in their own minds and hearts. But yeah, I think a lot of the hate is that. And that's not to say that people criticizing Billy is not valid. Like, I've criticized her. She has done a lot of wrong. She's made a lot of mistakes. She's also a fucking kid. I don't know what, like, if we're gonna be terrible to Billy, like, be terrible to Conrad and Jeremiah too. Keep that same energy. Everybody's done things that are fucked up in this situation. Literally everybody. So why are we so focused on Billy? And it's also jealousy. It is. It's literally like a pick-me-ism. It's a, I wish that was me. And if I was in this situation, I would do better with these fictional men. Hate to say it, but that's my truth. Do you think Belly and Conrad are stuck in the past? No. But I don't think that the writers did a good enough job of, like, making that crystal clear. And that's because they kind of were, like, trying to go for, like, will she end up with Jeremiah? Like, what's gonna happen? Will she end up alone? They were kind of, like, trying to do a little bit of a mystery in the beginning and middle, where it's like, maybe she won't end up with Conrad, when it's like, that's inevitable, and that's where the story's been leading. If it didn't go that way, it would be crazy, not just because of the source material, but because of the actual show, the adaptation. Like, literally all roads lead to that. It would make no sense if it ended otherwise, but they were, like, trying to be like, but maybe it will. And I think that kind of sacrificed some, like, good storytelling at points, because it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, and this feels weird, and now it feels like out of nowhere, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't think they're stuck in the past, but I do not think that they did a good enough job for the general public. Of course, me, I get it, but, like, for the general public, I don't think they did a good enough job, like, telegraphing and making it clear that she actually has always felt these feelings, and, like, why she's been holding back. And, you know, they kind of were like, oh, well, Conrad's a stalker or whatever. Like, they did not make it clear enough that she actually still reciprocated those feelings and really wanted that and needed that from him, but had all these other, like, reasons for trying not to give in to it. It just, they made it seem like for a majority of the season that she actually just didn't think of Conrad at all and didn't care. And it's like, ooh, that couldn't be farther from the truth. That couldn't be farther from the truth. And if you read the book, you know that. And the fact that they went down that direction and kind of sacrificed a lot of her inner monologue and her thoughts kind of made it really, like, confusing and muddled and weird for the audience, which is why then, like, people felt weird at the end. And I get that. For the average viewer, like, I get how you would feel that. Compared to the last book, are Conrad and Taylor the only characters in the show that you felt got done justice to their characters and completed their arcs organically? Did Belly's character suffer the most at the expense of ship wars? Also, who's Jenny Leeds' best lead male love interest? Well, you know, I haven't read the To All the Boys books, but I would say Conrad for sure. I haven't seen Exo Kitty either. I have seen the To All the Boys movies. I would say Conrad by a long shot, in my humble opinion. Sorry if you disagree. Did they do justice to Conrad? I think they expanded on Taylor. I think they actually improved upon Taylor. And there were some improvements from the book for sure. Who else? Belly did suffer, but at the same time, there are also elements to this that I actually like, that I think completed her arc more comprehensively than in the book, where, like, her going to Paris, spending that time finding herself, being alone for a while, I think was really good. So actually, I think there were some improvements on Belly's character, and she had her own, like, aspirations, she had her own dreams, you know, the sports psychology thing. I remember that driving me crazy in the book, because I was like, why is the only thing Belly does the Fisher brothers? Like, why? And, like, the summer house. Like, does she not care about anything else? And that actually, they made a point to, like, talk about that in the season, where it's like, no, she kind of doesn't, and she needs to. She needs to have a life outside of that. She needs to find herself. And that really wasn't in the book. So I actually think that is an improvement on Belly. You guys, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor of this video. It would not be possible without Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an easy to use app that helps you save more and manage your money better. If you want to be sure that you're not being charged for things that you're not even aware of, if you want to budget, if you want to make sure you're spending your money wisely, Rocket Money is here to help. I'm a frugal person to begin with, so I don't really like spending money, period, but I definitely don't like spending money on things that I don't want, don't need, and don't use. This partnership is so serendipitous because literally just a couple days ago, I got a charge on my card for a subscription that I had completely forgotten that I had. They had an old address, they're sending it there. It was an absolute nightmare. Rocket Money automatically makes a list of all of your subscriptions so you can keep track of it all in one place. You can cancel the ones you don't want anymore with just a few taps. Rocket Money is a godsend for keeping up with your finances. If you want to track your money, if you want to budget better, if you want to cancel unwanted subscriptions, Rocket Money allows you to do it all in one place so easily. Rocket Money has helped its members save up to $740 a year when using all of its premium features. They've also helped members cancel over $500 million of unwanted subscriptions. Your money is yours. It's hard earned. You want to be in charge of where and how you're actually spending it, and Rocket Money is the place to help you do that. Take control of your finances today. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get started for free. So again, thank you so much to Rocket Money, not only for sponsoring this video, but for helping me and millions of other people around the world help take charge of their personal finances. Will you do a reaction on the movie when it comes out? Well, yes, of course. Now, would I like to be at like the premiere? Of course. Yes. Amazon, thank you. Thank you for the invite. Jenny Han, hello. Would I like to interview all the cast? Well, yes, of course. But yeah, no, will do reactions and or discussions of the film when it comes out for sure. I wish we got more book Belly inner dialogue. I get the whole point she was lost in herself in Jeremiah, but I love how unhinged she was in the third book about Conrad. She was hilarious. Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I think it led to a lot of confusion, especially for general audience members and just kind of casual viewers. It's like, oh, so I guess she's over Conrad. And it's like, no, she's shaving her legs twice on the mere possibility that he could be in the same vicinity as her. You know what I mean? That's the energy that we have, people. And losing that is interesting, and I kind of like it as a choice. I listened to a video once about like her dialogue and how like she talks less and she has less inner dialogue when she's with Jeremiah, which I really like as like a device. And I think it's clever to show that like she's kind of lost herself. She's not really as introspective. And you can see that coming back when she like finds her way back to herself and therefore Conrad. So I like that. And I think it's like an interesting creative choice. But, you know, a lot of people just aren't really with it enough to understand that or to pick up on that, if you know what I mean. Like it needed to be spelled out a little bit more, in my opinion. And maybe it wouldn't have been so insufferable, the discourse surrounding it, if it was like a little bit more obvious. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we have all these conversations and debates about absolutely nothing and people are confused about everything? And it's like, oh, okay. Why do you think girls, including me, are so drawn to this fairy tale? Is it because we don't receive this type of emotions and intensity in real life, or maybe something even deeper? That's an interesting question. I think for the Summer I Turned Pretty in particular, although obviously this season's a little bit different, what drew me to it and what I think draws a lot of girls and women to it is like it captures, especially the first season, it captures something so hyper specific and so difficult to even articulate, which is this experience of like being a girl in high school. And I just remember, like, I just loved reliving that time of my life through Belly. And this idea of, like, oh my god, being in the same, like, having a sleepover at your crush's house. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, it really evokes those emotions. It makes you relive that. And there's something about that time in your life for a girl, especially, like, the crushes, the kind of drama, the gossip friends, finding yourself, trying to balance everything. There's something about that time, I'm sure in everybody's life, but I can only speak as a girl and woman. But in young girl and teenage girls' lives, like, I just think your emotions are so heightened to a degree that maybe they never are again, in a way, which is very interesting. It's like things matter so much and they hit so hard and they just really hit home and they kind of like shape you. It's such a formative time. And I think that it really tapped into all those feelings, all the insecurities, the kind of back and forth, the flirting, the fear of, but the desire for romance, the desire, having this crush that you're always looking after, like the possibilities. There's just so much, the innocence of that, the kind of how wide the world seems at that time. There's something so specific about that time in everyone's life, but particularly I think a girl's life, that it just captured perfectly, like I've never seen before, and it brought me right back to that time, and I loved it. It was like reliving that. I was like feeling all those feelings again that I haven't felt since, where it's like I remember, when you have a crush in high school, it's like, and you like sleep over at their house, or you're going to a party where they're at the same thing, and you're like having glances and you're trying to figure out if they like you back, and then you get a text from them in the morning, like the buzz that gives you. Like sometimes I joke sometimes because I'm like, actually some of my happiest moments, it feels like, and this isn't true, but like in a mature sense, but obviously like in that moment, like there were times that just felt like the highest ascendance. It was like, this is the happiest I've ever been and will ever be, because your emotions are just so heightened, like whether it's hormones, I have no idea what is going on, but you're low-key a little crazy during that time. Like you're actually really kind of a little like mental during that time, especially as a woman, or a girl growing up into a woman. And it really captured that high for me again, like nothing else. And it really brought me back in touch with that. And I just loved it. I ate it up. It was like, I can't believe you're giving me back this feeling. It felt like such a gift, such a privilege. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting to like feel like I have a crush that I'm, waiting to get a text from again. Like that is so, it's such a specific thing, and also so universal at the same time. It's interesting. But yeah, that really gave me a high like nothing else. So I think the first season especially, but the concept in general is really what captured me, at least. And I think a lot of people. I think you see that in a lot of the female audience. And even, grown women, like adults, which I am, but like, even older people, women older than me even, like you kind of see the return to that time through this. And it's just girlhood. It's just girlhood, after all. I wish Belly would have had her epiphany of I still love Conrad immediately after he stepped out. Then he would have been at the window when she yelled for him. But I do love a good airport/train station chase scene. Yeah, I agree, because I still think that was a little clunky and a little weird. I just rewatched it. I'm going to do an anatomy of a scene on that confrontation right before she changes her mind. And once I watched it again, I was like, I can kind of draw the dots of like, there are two things specifically, wait until the video, that he says in that I think flip the switch, and plus the picture of her, that those are the things that really get her to change her mind and have that realization. But yeah, I think Belly needed to literally and spiritually chase after Conrad. She needed to be begging for that man. She needed to be hauling ass to get him. She needed to be sacrificing everything, giving up everything, literally leaving like undressed. Like she dropped everything to run after that man. And after he has done so much sacrifice for her, I think they needed that grand romantic gesture to be like, no, actually, I'm just as down bad for you as you are for me. And all this season I've been denying it, and I've kind of been treating you like shit, so I'm sorry about that. But, here I am. This is my big grand gesture. I'm finding you on a train, leaving everything else behind, running after you, like, at all costs, no matter what, I'm hunting you down. I think you kind of needed that gesture, not only for the audience, but for Conrad, because it's cathartic for all the kind of one-sidedness thus far in the show. Jeremiah and Denise should have just flirted a bit more, not kissed until the movie. The kiss was a little too soon. I agree, the kiss felt a little too soon. I wish they would have just developed their relationship more in the season. I don't know if they're gonna do a Denise and Jeremiah, like, in-game. I don't know. Would that make sense? Like, is she gonna be in the movie, or is he gonna have someone else? Do they care enough about the ship to, like, really go all the way with it? I wonder. I don't really know. We'll see. Like, I kind of have to reserve judgment on that to see what happens with the movie. But yeah, I see what you're saying, where it's like that narrative could have extended to the movie, and then we could have had more of the development of their relationship if they are going to be in-game. And yeah, the kiss felt it was like a little rushed. I feel like they should have planted the seeds a little bit earlier throughout the season, and then it wouldn't have felt as rushed, and maybe that was the way to go. But, it's hard to get everything in there in the right time. regardless. There were a couple comments on this. This was funny to me. Off topic, but would you consider doing Maxton Hall? Yes. And I am considering. And I did watch some of the first season. I can't remember how much I watched. It was a long time ago now. I don't really remember all that much. I think it's an enemies to lovers, right? That sort of thing. And she's like nerdy, and he's like the cool guy. It's that type vibe. I don't really remember much from it, and I didn't end up finishing it. And obviously I know season 2 is coming out. So yes, I have considered that. So comment down below if you want that. If you, let me know. Let me know, because I am considering it. Like, I'm like, maybe if there's enough interest, if there's enough people, maybe I just will. The next prime romance couple. Yeah, so I mean, those are some good questions. I feel like that kind of addresses everything. I can and should do like a ranking of my favorite Billy Conrad moments. I have issues with the pacing of the season for sure. I was really excited about the length, like that there were so many more episodes, because I thought, that would mean that things wouldn't feel as rushed, but then it still kind of did in the end. But then again, it's also really kind of hard to even talk about it, because it's like there's still more coming. There's a movie coming. So I can't even judge this as like, how do they wrap up the story? Because they haven't. I have to wait until I get the final puzzle piece to really like make any judgments about it. Because it hasn't ended. You know what I mean? I do think, again, I remember thinking it was a weird like final shot, and that there was no reunion or reconciliation between Billy Conrad and Jeremiah, because they're like the main three. It's like you kind of need that, but it makes sense. They're kind of saving that for the movie, and even from some of the interviews that I've read, it seems like maybe they're like kind of doing a like, well, is it awkward? Which let's not focus too much on that. If you want a little conflict, like maybe in the beginning, like little awkward, but like we need to get over that. That I need my Billy Conrad in game. I need them happy. I need them running into the ocean, married in their marriage attire. Thank you very much. And I believe I will collect it. I really do. I believe that will be the ending of the film, as it should be, and of the series, as it should be. So yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises of the season, I could not believe how like sexy it was. Like that really shocked me. I think the time jump, it's so interesting because a lot of these decisions, it's like there's so much good that comes from it, and there's also some not so great things. I think the time jump in a lot of ways was good, because I think it made it more adult, right? And it made way for these more kind of adult problems, adult scenes, including these sex scenes, which I was truly like shocked by, because I just never thought I'd see anything of the like in the show, but I wanted to. That's the thing, I had actually thought about that. That was kind of like my best case scenario. Like I did want that, but I just never thought I would get it. And so it was crazy that we did. Again, I've talked about the change, like having Belly and Jer in a relationship for that long is rough. It's rough. It really is. Especially when I just don't think that they did a good enough or a clear enough job of like explaining what was going on psychologically with Belly. Obviously, again, like if you really look into it, if you're a really big fan, like you can kind of see the seeds being planted, but like for general audiences, I just don't think they're like, how could someone be with someone for 4 years and then go back to this love that they had when they were a teenager? Like that's kind of how trite it seems to a lot of people. And I'm like, it's really a lot like deeper than that. And also like, there's so much more to it. And I just don't know that they were clear enough about that. Although, to be fair, they were pretty clear. I don't know, maybe I'm just, worried about, maybe I'm just tainted, honestly, by the moronic and vitriolic discourse surrounding the show, which is never ending and ringing in my ears constantly. And it's like there's always a new, just absolutely crazy thing that someone says or does or that they're fighting about. And it's like always a fight. It's just crazy, always. So maybe that's more what maybe that's not a fair characterization of the show, but more so the fandom. Because yeah, they were pretty clear. They pretty much were like, that was a trauma bond. Actually, you're codependent. Like they literally said that. Like how much more clear do you want to get? If there are people who are willfully ignoring that, like sure, that's their prerogative. That's up to them. They could do that. But like, that's literally what the show said. It literally said it. So I don't know how you're supposed to miss that. But I do think even as a diehard Billy Conrad, there was too much distance between them. They made it seem like Belly didn't care. They made it seem like she moved on completely, and it was painful to watch. It was worrisome. It made Conrad look a little crazy and pathetic at times, in my opinion. And it kind of made people lose the plot. Like, even I, as like a big Billy Conrad fan, sometimes lost sight of like the first 2 seasons and everything leading back to Billy Conrad because they were making it so like distant. They were making it such a kind of non-tangible, abstract concept that seems like a million years ago, and like they've all moved on from it, and like this is one-sided. Which I think did a disservice to their story in the end, because then it does feel rushed, it does feel weird a little bit. And again, even to like the biggest fans, it's like, oh, like some of her behavior really like surprised me and made me upset, because I was like, what do you mean you just don't care about Conrad, like, even as a human being? And I get that it's like they're saying like, oh, the love was so deep she had to bury it that much, and you know, they bonded over that. Like, I get what they did, but I think there were one too many episodes of them being like really, really distant, or not enough signs. There just weren't enough signs that Belly still loved Conrad until the very end. Even in the episode, like I rewatched it the other night and I was like, it kind of seems like Belly doesn't even like Conrad until maybe midway through the episode. And I'm like, that's kind of a little crazy. That's kind of a little crazy to make her seem so indifferent or so moved on or so in love with Jared, so in this relationship, like whatever it is, that she's forgotten about Conrad, even as a person, because that's the other issue that I had. It's like, the friendship wasn't even there. The care wasn't even there as lifelong companions and friends and family members, essentially. It's like, how are you just making fun of him and you don't care about his well-being and you don't think about him or talk to him, like, at all, just as a person? And if the tables were turned, she couldn't do that with Jer, and Conrad wouldn't allow her to or force her to. And again, that's not, like, meaning that Jer forcefully kept her and Conrad apart or, like, said don't talk to him, but just the situation itself necessitated that. And of course, it's, like, it's funny because it's like, well, they had to be apart, and then the second they got back together, the second they saw each other again, it was like everything went to shit. You know what I mean? Like, they had to stay apart all that time, and that's the only reason that they were together sooner, is because they were both staying away from each other, because they knew. But I think they could have done a better job clarifying that. I think they could have done a better job making Belly's intentions clear, Belly's heart clear. I would have loved a little bit more groveling from her toward Conrad. But there were so many moments that were so great. Like, the bathtub scene is really, really, really good. You know, the whole Conrad episode is amazing. The peach scene, like, that entire thing is amazing. The flashback in that, oh my god. Them playing house, just so good. Even, I mean, the engagement episode where they announced the engagement to the family is crazy and so embarrassing. And actually, I think there were a lot of smart choices that they made. Like I said, making Jeremiah and Belly kind of, like, band together in defiance in that way. They're, like, digging their heels in. They're like, we'll show you. And you can tell, like, how much immaturity is there, that they're really trying to just prove people wrong, when it's like, maybe listen to everybody around you who thinks this is a bad idea. I think their impetuousness was very clear from that. So there was a lot that I really liked about it. Again, I liked the development of Stephen and Taylor. I think if I recall correctly, Stephen and Taylor really aren't a thing in the book at all. I like the addition of new characters. Like, I liked Denise a lot. I like the development for Adam that they gave, and that makes a lot of sense to me, because it's like, well, he's the only parent left now, so we need to have some of that. There's a lot to love about this season, and there is a lot that I love. There's also things that I'm like, and at the exact same time, I'm like, it's still not over. So it's kind of hard to even give, like, a final judgment or assessment, because the story literally hasn't ended. Like, I can't see the way that it all leads up to each other and connects to each other, because it's not done yet. So I will be eagerly awaiting the movie, of course. And I'll be able to, like, say more about the whole arc of all the characters and relationships and the ending, the actual ending, when it's the actual ending. But yeah, that's just some of the things. Thank you for your questions. Those are just some of the things that, like, off the top of my head, I wanted to kind of address. Good, bad, and ugly. Like, there's a lot good in this season. I do think the pacing, like, was kind of an issue. I loved the Conrad episode. Like, everything about that was so perfect. I loved the episode with the injury. The last episode was really good too. Like, they were able to fit a lot in there And that was impressive. I think they did an impressive little turnaround. It was almost like they had written themselves into a corner and found a pretty good way out in the last episode. And, you know, finally getting to see them together and happy was so cathartic. And obviously, Jer, too, it's like I want him to have a happy ending, too, and he does. And there's a lot of growth from each of these characters. That's the other thing that I think this show did a lot better than the books, is the individual character growth. There really was an arc, and again, rewatching it the other night to write my script, I was really thinking about that, like for each of them, especially Belly Conrad and Jer, but honestly, everybody, Laurel, Adam, Steven, Taylor, Denise even, like a new character, there is a huge arc and massive growth from all of them. And that's really lovely to see. And that narrative is really good, and they were able to execute that really well. And I think probably did justice to each of the individual characters in that way, much more comprehensively than in the book. The character development was really good, and it's only going to continue because there's a little bit more. So we will be eagerly awaiting that. I'm sure I'll make more videos. I already have some in the works, obviously. The video essay talking about the love triangle. I have an anatomy of a scene for the confrontation in Paris, like on the bed after they've been together. I might do like a ranking Belly Conrad scenes. Let me know if there's like any ideas for videos that if you want me to keep talking about the Summer I Turned Pretty, like if you want a character ranking, you want a tier list, you want a rewatch, you want, you know, like if there's a specific topic that I haven't addressed, let me know, and maybe I'll make a video about that. If there's more questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below, and if you want me to continue talking about it, we absolutely can continue that conversation. Obviously, we're all just waiting until the movie comes out, and I will cover that for sure. But let me know what you think of this video, of the season. Do you agree, disagree? And let me know what you would like to see from me as far as the Summer I Turned Pretty content, in addition to the things I have already listed that I have in the works. And I will see you for another video soon.